been used, believe it or not, in NFL play. This is a Rawlings helmet specifically made for the NFL and marked as such. But you can see by comparison, these helmets have gotten significantly larger because there's more padding in them. They've gotten significantly better in managing those kinds of impact energies that we understand.
It's all about the impact energies. Here on GameFaceRadio, CBS Sports Radio 940 WINE locally. All across the globe on 940sportsradio.com. Big time thanks for joining us. I am the Frattman. Our co-host is none other than Jerry Foley from the Giant Insider. This is week number 10. It is also our 10th season of Game Face Radio here on this radio station. A 4-hour show that Foley and I cram into 1 hour. Heavy emphasis of this all NFL show, of course, on the New York Football Giants. And never a shortage of things to talk about with this football team, especially these days, as it seems like the soap opera continues to linger, Jerry, over this locker room and this franchise.
Good morning, buddy. Though, you know what? This is another Sunday where they couldn't ruin our day, so you have to look at it that way and be positive. So, two Sundays in a row, we'll be okay.
It seems like the Giants have not played on Sunday at all this year.
It's fine. I'll take it, man. The way it's gone, oh, my God. Can we do this all the time?
Monday night, tomorrow night, supposedly.
Yeah.
Supposedly. What do we mean by supposedly? Well, they're supposed to play in San Francisco against the 49ers, but California's burning, man.
Yeah, the latest is they'll probably play the game there. The air quality won't be great for the players, but I don't think, as of right now, they're not going to move it. If things worsen, I don't know how it could get worse. I mean, I shouldn't say that, but it's so bad there. Prayers up for those people. But as of right now, they're going to play the game.
Okay, because I thought that it was kind of breaking news this morning that the game may get postponed or moved.
Yeah, it depends on what you see. Like, I saw that last night, and now I'm seeing this morning that it looks like they are going to play. So it's kind of going back and forth. The last report I saw was that they're going to play tomorrow night. But, again, dude, that could change in the next 10 minutes. So
we're talking about the 1-7 New York Giants against the 2-7 San Francisco 49ers.
Great job by those schedule makers, huh, bud?
Yeah, well, they just stink up the joint, it seems, every year with these nationally televised games, although we had the Packers against the Patriots last Sunday night, and then Thursday night's game, which I thought was going to be a good one, the Steelers against the Panthers. I wish they would do more of these interconference games on national TV, you know? That would be really cool.
I thought it was a good one the other night. Yeah, I liked it. I mean, the game stunk, but the fault was there.
Yeah, exactly. It looked like it was going to be a good one when Carolina marched down the field and took a 7-0 lead, and then it was all Pittsburgh.
Then all hell broke loose.
Oh, yeah. So, okay. The season obviously is pretty much over already at the halfway point, and that really sucks. As Giants fans, this is not something we were really used to, unless, of course, you followed the team back in the 70s like I did.
Yeah.
But this is the way it's been for the last 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah, and speaking of the 70s, Ron Johnson, Giants running back, passed away a couple days ago, and it was just reported.
Wow.
So,
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, he had dementia. I reached out to him a few years ago, not knowing, and his son was very gracious and said, my father can't do interviews, and I didn't even know. But, he just passed away. But talk about the 70s Giants, like, I said it this year, man, early on. If the Giants can go 3-4 through the first 7, they had a shot. And look at the division, right? If they were 3-5 or 4-4, you're right in it. But at 1-7, it's like, yeah, like you said, man, halfway through the season's over.
Yeah,
But this was the year. This was a division. This was the year where 3-5 would still have them in it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because aren't the Eagles under 500?
Or right at, yeah.
Yeah. So, and of course, the division is still up for grabs, I think, for every team in the division except for the Giants.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
And, Eagles playing Dallas tonight, that'll be a big game. So.
Yeah, it certainly will be.
For them.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question here before I move on to another subject.
Sure.
Because, of course, now with the season pretty much being over, I think Giants fans, myself included, we're starting to look more at college football because
yes.
we're looking at potential players coming into the Giants.
Uh-huh.
We're thinking about the draft.
Yep.
Yes, of course, we're still following the season, but, I mean, at 1-7, how excited are you going to be about your football team? So everybody's talking about Justin Herbert. Who are the Giants going to take now? It looks like they're going to have a top 3 pick once again, 2 years in a row. You've got to take a quarterback. But my question for you is it essential for the Giants, especially after passing on a quarterback last year, is it absolutely essential for them to only be looking at that position with their first-round choice, or can they do what they did some years back and pick up a quarterback who's currently playing in the NFL like a Kerry Collins?
Right.
And Kerry Collins was able to bring them to a Super Bowl.
Right.
Yeah.
It's something that I go back and forth with in my head, with friends, with others in the media. It depends on how high the Giants view Herbert, right? So if they're picking top 3 and he's there, I believe he's going to be the guy. However, if he goes to the Raiders, say the Raiders are first and they're going to move on from Carr, or a team trades up ahead of the Giants and gets Herbert, then it gets interesting. Then, do the Giants trade down? Do the Giants stay put? Do they take next best available? I think they would take the kid from Ohio State, Bosa, or Vincent from Houston, who didn't play last night. And you said it, man. I watch more college football now than I ever have in my life because of Sundays being so bad. So I'm trying to stay on top of who's good and who's not. And West Virginia, the kid Greer, the quarterback, everybody's starting to like him now. Like, he's got that gamer in him. He's got that Baker Mayfield type of player. So it's going to be interesting. Guys are going to rise and fall. It's a long time to April, Steve, but what you said is not out of the realm of possibility. Could it be a Teddy Bridgewater that they go get and say, you know what, we're going to take Bosa because Herbert went, or maybe they're not as high on him, although I think they are. Maybe they take Bosa, the pass rusher from Ohio State, and then say, you know what, we're going to go Bridgewater for a year or two and see how that goes.
Or even Derek Carr.
Who knows?
Derek Carr.
Well, the problem with Derek Carr is going to be too expensive. And the Giants don't want to be in that salary cap hell again with a quarterback. So I don't think it would be Derek Carr. However, it could be. I don't know. But if I had to guess, I think they're going to go all in on Herbert. I mean, they visited him 5 times. Gettleman and Abrams were at Oregon yesterday. So
yeah. So the bottom line here is that even though it's likely that the Giants go quarterback in next year's draft, somewhere in the draft, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. It is possible for them to put a team together to go on a run in a couple of years with a quarterback that is currently playing in the NFL somewhere.
It's not out of the realm of possibility. I mean, in conclusion, I have no idea what they're going to do, but that's not a bad idea.
Okay,
what you're saying, and others have brought it up. Others have brought up saying, let's do a bridge quarterback till maybe we have the opportunity to take Alabama's Tua, number 1, the lefty from Alabama, or the kid from NC State, who is one of the highest graded ever coming out of high school. Now, you can't just plan on that and say, we're going to suck in 2 years, so we'll be okay. So, but to your point, it's a possibility. I don't think it will happen, but it's a possibility.
Okay. Changing the subject before we go into NFL haps, going back for a moment to that Carolina-Pittsburgh game Thursday night. And, I don't want to belabor this, but it was so freaking blatant. Did you watch that game?
Oh, the Eric Reed play you're talking about?
No. I'm talking about an offensive pass interference on a Steelers touchdown
Yeah.
I mean, it was so blatant that the tight end for the Steelers pushed off on the defensive player with both hands, both arms stretched out. Yeah. Not only was there no flag called, but I didn't hear Buck or Aikman even mention it.
No, they won't. I mean, why would Aikman mention it? He made a living off of a wide receiver who did that for a living in Michael Irvin. They're not going to. The NFL wants teams to score. The officiating stinks. It's just a shame, man.
It was so blatant, Jerry.
Yeah, I thought you were going to talk about the Eric Reed play where he dove at Roethlisberger.
Oh, well, yeah, that was ridiculous.
Yeah, but and the NFL, we have an officiating problem as it is, but they're not going to call plays like that.
Yeah.
They're so much less likely to call that on the offense than the defense.
GameFaceRadio, CBS Sports Radio. We are here 9 o'clock Sunday mornings, talking the NFL, talking the G-Men. We're going to do New York Giants radio in the third segment. In-your-face matchups coming up at the end of the show. The Fennelly Fracas is coming up as well. And, of course, in our following segment, Bonehead NFL Media Matters. Let's give a shout-out to our friends at Green Bubbles Car Spa right here in Danbury, Brookfield, Connecticut. Right behind the mobile gas station at the Four Corners. I don't know what this guy's doing, man, but Steelers running back Le'Veon Bell is likely to not play this entire year. He's 27 years old. He just wasted a valuable year of his career.
Yeah, or he's saving himself up for next year. I have no idea what goes through these guys' minds. I mean, there's some players who are like, good for him, he's saving himself. I don't know, man, he wasted a year in his prime.
Yeah, right in the middle of his prime. That's the weird thing. And, again, I'm not a fantasy football guy, but what about these teams that drafted?
Oh, in our league, he went number 1 overall, and we just laugh at the guy, and it is what it is. Sucks.
Speaking of fantasy football, Giovanni Bernard. He is expected to play today. And Matt Barkley, former USC or UCLA quarterback.
USC,
Yeah. He's going to be starting for the Bills today. I had no idea that guy was even still in the league. I haven't heard his name in 5 years.
And Fournette is playing today, too, on Jacksonville, the running back. He's back.
Yeah.
I only know that because I'm starting him, so I'm pretty psyched.
Well, is he back to full health, though?
That's what they said. They said he is, so we'll see.
All righty, then. That is NFL Haps. He is Jerry Foley. I am the Frattman. This is GameFaceRadio. We are going to talk about the boneheadedness of the boneheads in the NFL media, nationally and in New York, where the Giants are, of course. That's coming up in the next segment, just moments away. Hang on. Let's crank it up. A little Robin Trower, baby. Game Face the music.
I was stitching time, just about sent me from going through the same old moves. And this cat of mine, he still suffers. He's going through the same old blues. But that phone just keeps on rolling, bringing me some real bad news.
The New York Giants are the main attraction here. Game Face Radio, Sunday mornings, 9 Eastern on 940 CBS Sports Radio.
Good call!
In my opinion, that sucked.
I would agree with that. We see all kinds of sucked throughout the week from the bozos in the sports media. Good morning, it's the Frattman here with Jerry Foley from the Giant Insider. Sunday mornings, 9 o'clock Eastern. All football, baby. New York Giants in detail coming up in our next segment. It is time for Bonehead Football Media Matters. Jerry Foley, let's start out with this story right here. It couldn't happen to a better person in a better realm. A Las Vegas sportscaster arrested recently for fondling himself in public.
Jesus.
Inside of a casino. I mean, he's doing this right out in the open where people can see him. All these people were talking about it. And then, of course, the police ended up showing up and caught him in the act. What are you doing, man?
Yeah, it's pathetic. I mean, come on.
I mean,
Jesus, man.
that's bad.
Oh,
That is really bad.
yeah.
I mean, go sit in private somewhere, I mean, go find a phone booth, if nothing else.
Yeah, that's out there, man.
Oh, okay. So how about this one? I don't know if this is really this doesn't fall into the media category, but the reason I'm going to bring it up in this segment is because the media hasn't brought it up.
Right.
But you remember 2 years ago when all the hoopla about how it seems like you're in commercials like every minute and a half while you're watching a football game, and Roger Goodell and the NFL came out and said, we're going to do all these different things now to not make it seem like we're playing tons and tons of commercials.
Yes.
And they had all these different ideas that they were going to implement, and really I have only seen one where they split the screen now every once in a while.
Yeah, they do it for, timeouts.
Yeah, they do it for timeouts. Otherwise, it's back to the same thing that we experienced, and the fascinating part of this is nobody's even talking about it.
No, and all they did, like you said, for some timeouts, they split the screen, but there's been absolutely no difference otherwise.
None. Nope. And it was a big topic of discussion 2 years ago. Roger Goodell came out and said, all right, we're going to take care of this. We're going to do this, and this. None of that was ever done or was implemented for a day, and then it went away, and, of course, no one except for GameFace bringing it up. Pretty funny stuff, man.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk New York, because there's always lots of dumbness and boneheadedness in New York.
Sure.
You've heard, obviously, this week, actually the last 2 weeks, WFAN having in-house wars.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's interesting because you got two sides for the same radio station warring against each other, complaining about different things against each other. Meanwhile, we've been complaining about all those things, about all of them, on this radio show for a long time. All you guys stink, and yet you're accusing each other of stinking.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they allow it there. Boomer and Giannotti, I was going to say Carton, Boomer and Giannotti, they take shot after shot after Francesa. He comes back and calls them a bunch of idiots and losers, and Chernoff seems to be okay with it. It's just complete mayhem. And then you had Carlin and Giannotti supposedly arguing, and I think it all stinks, unfortunately. Look, Francesa put in his time, and I think there was a time where I enjoyed listening to him, I'll be honest with you. I liked his Sunday morning show.
Yeah.
But now he's like a caricature of himself, where people call in, they make jokes. He acts like just a cranky old man now, and it's like he doesn't say anything of substance, or rarely does. He doesn't go back to his picks are terrible. Look, if you or I make bad picks, we kind of laugh about it afterwards. He doesn't even admit it.
No, he doesn't admit a lot of things that he says that are just way off base and is proven wrong subsequently.
And I think the guy in the morning's in over his head. All he does is the impressions of Francesa and everyone else.
Right.
Then you had Carton, who was convicted or found guilty on all the counts against him. And then you had, look, I feel for his wife and kids, I really do. But then you had, Al Dukes and the producer of the morning show sticking up, well, what he did was wrong, but. You know what? Here's the issue I have with that. If that was anyone else, those guys would be ripping that person's life to shreds.
Yes.
And they're sticking up for him, fine. I don't care. I want to move on. But don't act like everyone's, there's so much vitriol on Twitter. Yeah, guys, you helped perpetuate it when you ran that show with him.
There was talk that Giannotti and Chris Carlin actually got into a fight outside of the radio station. Did you hear about that?
I think that was a rumor that Francesa started. I don't know if that happened, but Francesa just says anything, and it's like, okay, I guess we believe it. So who the hell knows, man? That station it's insane what goes on from morning to night. And
it really is, man. And again, you and I have talked about it umpteen times, how that's supposedly the New York Giants flagship station. I would be embarrassed to have that as my flagship radio station.
And how does, if you're ESPN, how are you not beating them?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? How is your show so bad that you can't beat that clown car.
Right, and you're carrying the ESPN name with you on the radio, and you can't beat WFAN with this hokey and horrible and childish and 70s sounding as that radio station is. It's another example of, I think, New York. I grew up in New York, and I got to tell you, man, it's an alien place to me because I just think people's brains are backwards, frontwards, sideways. It really is an astonishing thing. I think it's funny how Francesa called the Boomer and Geo and Boomer, whatever the freak it is.
Giannotti, but they call him Geo for some stupid reason.
Yeah, Nat Geo. Your show stinks, is what Francesa says.
Yeah. But what also is funny in that, and Francesa can't help being Francesa, he's like, oh, I was at LaGuardia, and my radio got stuck, and he was on it. Like, okay, so you hate the show that much, you listen for an hour? Really? Come on, man.
This is hilarious stuff, man. It's like
an old dial that you can't move it. Like
it's
really?
A soap opera over there, man.
I mean, I hate the morning show. I don't
It's
listen.
horrible.
I know for this segment,
where did this guy
should.
Geo come from anyway?
It's a Pittsburgh. I think he's originally from Long Island, but he spent some time in Pittsburgh.
Okay, but what has he done to warrant being hired for the morning show?
He's from Long Island, where Boomer's from. I think that's it. I'm not even kidding.
Unbelievable.
And he's a Vikings fan. So again, another non-New York fan on that radio station. It's a joke.
Of course. Well, it's the land of misfits over there, man. It really is. Part of this article I'm looking at here in the New York Post by Zach Brazieler talking about everything going on over there is he mentions that Francesa is in a feud right now with Entercom and MSG. I mean, the guy's arguing with everyone, including his audience. He sounds so disgruntled and unhappy.
He sounds like a miserable person, which that's what I mean. Like, he's not what he was before, where he was never a genius on the radio, but what he did, he was good at. And I got to give him credit for that. He did it for a real long time. But now, especially leaving and coming back, and then he works like, I don't know, he's on for a few hours. He does it from home. I mean, I like told you, man, there's a whole Twitter page associated to finding his errors, and they find 3 or 4 a day.
I mean, it is unbelievable, man.
And he's a miserable guy. So when people call up and do the prank calls, he can't even laugh at himself. He just gets mad and says, you were on the phone for 3 hours. I know people who've done this. They're on the phone for like 3 minutes waiting. There's not a parade of people waiting to get on that show anymore or on the phones. They don't wait very long.
And it's not just, we're picking on FAN here, but all of New York, from a political standpoint, from a sports standpoint. Look at Gary Myers. He's got to be one of the biggest bird brains on earth. I think the guy should really go invest in a diaper company because I think he wears them every day of his life, man.
Well, he's a big Dallas fan, too, and he keeps pushing all this Dallas book on everyone. You know, look, there's guys, there are reporters who are Giant fans who push their stuff, and I get it. Like, that's awesome. Good for them. Or Jets. I get it. It's New York. But Gary Myers is a diehard Dallas fan who's pushing his Cowboys book on everyone, on the radio, on Twitter. It's like, dude, no one cares in New York. Really.
Oh, man. He's on the air.
Ranch or Fort Worth, wherever the hell they play.
He's on the air the other day saying, I predicted the Giants were going to beat the Patriots in Super Bowl 42. Yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, all right. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I don't remember anyone. The only one I remember him specifically predicting they'd beat Dallas, and that was it. And I think he was doing it because he didn't want to jinx his own team.
And here's another great example of the dumbness of New York sports. I pick up the New York Post on Monday, even though the Giants are 1-7.
Yeah.
We're in New York, right? The New York Post is from New York, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're in mid-season, right?
Yep.
I pick up the Post, not one article about the New York Giants in Monday's edition of the Post.
That's
one.
Not shocking. Yeah.
Nothing.
Nope.
0. 3 pages of the Jets, nothing on the Giants.
I mean, wait till the off season. Unless it's the draft, they have nothing football.
Ugh.
But baseball, 365, they cover that sport.
What is up with New Yorkers and New Jerseyers, by the way, man? It's not just the media, too. It's the people.
Well,
they're weird, man.
I think they're broken. I think, there's not a lot of coverage for their teams a lot of times, unfortunately, and especially football fans. I mean, it's just New York. I've always said it, man. New York is a basketball town first, then baseball. Football is somewhere down the rung.
Yeah, but it's just it's everything's weird, man. I mean, it's weird who they vote for in New Jersey. This Menendez crook got reelected. New York, Cuomo. I mean, these people are out of their freaking minds, and everybody's going and voting for them. It's unbelievable. And I listen to these New Yorkers calling into the sports shows, and I'm just shaking my head, and I'm like, I grew up here? Really?
Yeah.
I grew up here? And by the way, when you and I get on the air in a larger market at some point, and we're taking phone calls, anybody who calls in and says, hey, how you doing? To open up the phone conversation, we're hanging up on you. We're hanging the phone up. Oh, I grew up here, and I think that everybody needs therapy. It is GameFaceRadio, CBS Sports Radio, 940 WINE, locally in New York and Connecticut, and all across the globe on 940sportsradio.com. We have a phone app as well. You can download the WINE 940 app for your phone and listen to us anywhere, of course. Let's see here. The national sports media, as well as all the bozos who cover sports in New York and who cover football. I remember hearing at the beginning of the year this question a lot. Is this the end of the Patriots' dominance? Is this the end of it? I remember hearing that last year. I remember hearing it the year before when the Patriots start out 1-3 or 2-2. In fact, let's mark it down on the calendar. You will hear the same thing in August and September next year.
Yeah, who are the starting quarterbacks in the AFC East besides Brady today? Do you know? It's what? McCown? Is it Barkley? And Osweiler, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So until that changes, they will win the AFC East until Tom Brady retires.
Yeah.
I mean, look at today. Like, I'm so sick of it, hearing it about the Patriots. They're going to be around until those teams, they are in the easiest division in football. And the Patriots have earned everything they've gotten. I get it. But they start off the season with like a 5-1 record, no matter what, because those teams usually stink. And until Brady retires, stop throwing dirt on the Patriots. It's not happening. They're going to be around until he decides to hang them up.
Well, you say stop doing it, but guess what? 98% of them will be doing it around August, September next year.
And I actually think they're not going to make it to the Super Bowl this year, but they're still going to be relevant. They're not done, so. Well,
if you asked me to put down my next paycheck on who represents the AFC in the Super Bowl, I can't pick anybody other than the New England Patriots.
Yeah, I'm going Kansas City.
Yeah, the interesting thing there is, where is that AFC championship going to be played?
And right now their record's better. If they can keep a better record, and that game's in Kansas City, Kansas City's going.
Although we have to keep in mind, Kansas City lost in the playoffs the last couple of years, numerous times at home.
Yeah. Well, without Patrick Mahomes, I'm a believer.
Yeah, that's a good point. Jerry Foley from the Giant Insider here on GameFaceRadio with yours truly, the Frattman. I saw a headline, a big roundtable discussion a couple of days ago on the NFL Network. What can Dallas do to turn around their offense? Turn around from what? From where? Where are you going to turn it around from?
Yeah, move on from Dak Prescott. Thankfully for the rest of the NFC East, Jerry Jones wants to give Prescott an extension and a lot of money, so I think everybody should be happy about that because he is not it.
Speaking of Jerry Jones, when you're watching that Titans-Cowboys game the other night, go Titans.
Oh, yeah.
That was so awesome to see them go into Dallas and win that game.
Yeah, I didn't expect that either.
Yeah.
I didn't think they were going to win that game.
But please explain this to me. Anybody who's watching that game, I don't care if you're a Cowboys fan or not, or if you hate them and despise them like Jerry Foley and I do. You're looking at that game and you're watching the amount of times that the cameramen are putting the camera on Jer.
Oh, they've been doing it for years. They used to do it more when he would run down to the sidelines and cheer them on like a cheerleader.
Right. But this particular moment in the game, I think it was in the fourth quarter, 5 times in about a 3-minute period. Now, take away my bias for a moment, and you're sitting there and you're watching this, and I am thinking to myself, tell me if I'm way off base here. I am thinking to myself, whoever's decision it is to continuously put the camera on that guy, you got a problem.
He should be fired.
You got a problem. Yeah. You need some type of therapy.
Yep.
What is that? Can anybody ever tell me what that is?
It's awful. Makes no sense, and no one wants to see it. Even Dallas fans don't want to see it.
Oh.
But he's a narcissist and can't get enough of it, so.
Oh, and he looks like a tadpole on top of everything.
Yes.
All right, that's Bonehead Football Media Matters.
That's why they call these people boneheads, Frattman.
GameFaceRadio, we're coming back to talk G-Men in mere moments. GameFace, CBS, back in a minute.
I don't mean to be so uptight, but my heart's been hurt a couple times by a couple guys that didn't treat me right. I ain't gonna lie.
Alexa, play Meant to Be.
Okay. If it's meant to be, it'll be, it'll be. Baby, just let it be. If it's meant to be, it'll be.
With Amazon Music, a voice is all you need. Get tens of millions of songs. Download the Amazon Music app today.
Technology Truths, brought to you by Geico.
Technology Truths.
Truth, you have 14 login passwords, and you can't remember any of them.
Doug 1, Doug 2, Doug is awesome. Doug is awesome 1, 2, 3.
Truth, it's so easy to switch and save on car insurance at geico.com.
Doug is super cool &% _ exclamation point 1985. Knew it.
Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Lockouts, new rules, penalty flags, billionaires versus millionaires. It's enough to bring out your ugliest game face. Sports Radio 940 WYNE.
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs?
I had to play that right there because OBJ is talking playoffs. It's GameFace Radio, CBS Sports Radio 940 WINE, and all across the globe on 940sportsradio.com. Jerry Foley from the Giant Insider, our co-host. Time to talk G-Men for the entire segment. OBJ talking about running the table and making the playoffs. I mean, yeah, I guess you got to give him an A for positive attitude, if nothing else, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can't have it both ways either, right? Like, if he's talking about wanting to leave, we hate him, and then if he does this, we're like, oh, that's so stupid. I mean, look, do you think you're going to win 8 games? I think there's a better chance that a spaceship lands during the middle of the game Monday night. But, no, I mean, it is what it is. It's comical. You know what? Hey, kudos to him for saying things like that and giving it a shot. And no one questions his effort on the field. No one questions his heart. It's just some of the things he does kind of off the field that we question. But we'll see, OBJ. If you can do it, man, you'll be the most popular Giant since Lawrence Taylor. So,
well, we heard this last year when they were 1-7. It wasn't OBJ because he was hurt. Somebody else on the team at this point was talking about running the table. And
I think it was Antrell Roll a couple years ago.
Yes, but I think it was also somebody last year when they were sitting at 1-7 after a bye week, because I think they had the bye last year, if I'm not mistaken, right at the exact time they had it this year.
You lose track of all the bad records they've had.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So you lose track of who says what.
So give us an update again. We heard this morning that the game in San Francisco Monday night against the 49ers had the potential of being postponed or relocated.
Yeah, that's what I heard last night, and then as of this morning, I heard that it looks like they're going to play the game, even though the air quality is not going to be that great, but it's not enough to, I guess, move it to a place like Arizona or push it to a different day. So as of right now, this could change, but as of right now, it looks like they're going to go forward with the game.
Alrighty then. So Giants will be playing on Monday night for the last primetime game this year. I think the rest of the games for the rest of the season are 1 o'clock kickoffs. Pat Shurmur has been taking a lot of heat over the last couple of weeks from former players who are now broadcasters. Brian Baldinger, one of the big names. Some of the quotes from Brian Baldinger on Pat Shurmur. I don't know what this offense is. He hasn't been able to scheme around the offensive line deficiencies. And here's a big one, and I have to agree with this one. It seems like they're just calling plays. Yeah, I mean, look, I have issues with Shurmur, too. Some of the things he's done have been head-scratching. And on our podcast, we gave him a D so far this year. But in his defense, I don't know how many offensive plays he can call where the result isn't going to be Manning getting killed behind that offensive line. Now, that's right. With Jamon Brown playing tomorrow night, I want to see what the right side of that line does. I want to see if they can hold Manning up. Because then, one of the things that Shurmur does wrong, I think, every game is he abandons the run. And I understand abandoning the pass because you don't have enough time for Manning to drop back and hit his receivers. But Barkley's so dynamic. You keep giving him the ball, he's going to break one. And I don't understand why, especially in close games, why they seem to abandon the run and then it seems like they're passing every down. I don't get it. Well, that's right. And in fact, Eli is throwing the 5th amount of passes per game. At 37 years old, that's what they have him doing. And it's because they're abandoning the run. But in the defense of abandoning the run, I think maybe, this team hasn't been able to run the ball in 8 years. It's unbelievable. And this year, just as much as any other year, you hand the ball off to Barkley, and he's stuffed for a 1-yard loss or at the line of scrimmage. I'm puzzled, though, when it's a one-score game and he ends up with 13 carries. Wait a minute, dude. Come on. Well, that's right. In fact, to your point, let's Ryan Dunleavy from NJ.com put a piece out the other day, which I thought was quite interesting. Yeah. And I didn't know this. I did not know this. Maybe you can corroborate it for us. He says that the Giants have been trailing at the start of the fourth quarter by the following scores this year: 13-9, 13-10, 10-6, 10-3, and they're 1-7. Yeah, and that's what I said. That's what I keep saying. The one thing you have to give Shurmur credit for is these guys are playing hard. And I know that sounds stupid, but last year they weren't. Last year they were giving up. There was all kinds of infighting. These guys like him. They're just not talented enough, and the play calling has been less than good, right? Yeah. So if you have to give them credit for anything, it's these guys are in games in the fourth quarter. They're just not making any plays. Yeah, I have to disagree with you a little bit. I do see a little bit of a lack of effort and a lack of heart, and I do see some dysfunction going on with this locker room like I saw last year. Not to the extent, but I do see some, like, for instance, the recent Landon Collins thing. And, why are you opening up your mouth now about not wanting to be a franchised player next year? You know what, man? I'll be honest with you. He's really not, and we're in the locker room. Somebody writes an article and does that, and that's what's annoying in New York, because a lot of these media guys, unfortunately, want to make this about themselves. And to be honest, Steve, Landon Collins is a really good kid, and he wants to be here. It's just when they ask him a question, where are you with contract, we're nowhere yet. They haven't talked about it. They're not going to do this till the off season. Franchising him is completely a last resort for the Giants. They didn't trade him for a reason. I mean, they were offered a second-round pick and didn't take it. So I just think a lot of times, and it's what we talk about in the media portion, a lot of these guys not make up stories, but they make it about themselves, and they want to be the ones that break it. Landon Collins really didn't say anything that was too outlandish or against the Giants. It's more like there's nothing really to report right now because nothing's happening. So, once again, the NFL media. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, how about that, huh? It's frustrating because you hear, the things you read, it's like, this isn't really what happened. But, okay, that's the media in this country, I guess. Oh, boy, that's frustrating, man. Yeah. Because the media has made it seem like Landon Collins is, they're trying to make this locker room, I guess, more dysfunctional than it really is.
It's not. It's real. This isn't. I mean, last year, yeah, you could say it. This year, these guys like each other. Even OBJ, they love that guy. And I have bigger issues with OBJ than his team does.
Yeah.
He just, Collins just wants to be there for a long time. He wants the security of a long-term deal.
Now, you brought up Jamin Brown the other day, a moment ago, and, of course, the Giants picked him up last week off of waivers. Pretty surprising that the Rams didn't cut somebody else other than him. He was their starting offensive lineman for the entire year last year.
Yeah.
This guy's a big boy. We should see a difference with him in there, right?
You're going from Patrick Omame / John Greco to him. Here's the deal. If you don't see a difference with this guy, then you got to fire Hal Hunter.
Yeah.
Then it's the coaching.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, because this is such a big upgrade. I mean, they released Omame yesterday. That tells you what they thought of him.
Omaha.
That's crazy. You signed him to a 3-year deal, I think. And then they released him, and they took $3 million in cap money, which I don't care. Who cares? It's not my money. And because of that, they're going to get a 4th-round pick. It's very weird how that works.
Yeah, that is weird.
Him by week 10, they're going to get a 4th-round pick next year.
Strange.
But, hey, Brown should be an upgrade, an instant upgrade over those guys.
Sticking with this Ryan Dunleavy piece here for another moment, NJ.com. He put up the comparison between points scored, points against last year versus this year. So in 2017, at this point last year, the Giants offense scored 129. This year it was 150.
Yeah.
So a little bit more on the scoreboard for the Giants. Defense pretty much the same. Points against last year at this point, 207. This year, 205.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think over the last 2 years you could say the offense has been much more the problem. I'd like to see towards the end of the year how it shakes out because it seems like the Giants weren't in a lot of games towards the end of the year. But, hey, we'll see. I mean, the thing about the offense this year is they're scoring a lot in garbage time. It seemed to be lower scoring games. The Eagle game was the one kind of anomaly, and the Carolina game where they gave up a lot of points. But
yeah.
Again, I think the defense, there's no pass rush. I think they're undermanned. I think when you have Olivier Vernon as your best pass rusher, he's a good player, but you need something else. You need, Lorenzo Carter needs to see more time to see what he can do, but they need a presence on that defensive line who can get to the pass rusher, which is why, to your earlier point, would the Giants go defensive lineman in the first round? Probably not, but if they did, they need help everywhere. They need help on the whole team. So
meanwhile, former Giants are collecting sacks by the buttload here, it looks like. JPP, Romeo Aquara, and Devon Kennard with the Lions.
I'm still okay with the JPP trade. Aquara made no sense to me at all. He was costing nothing, and he had flashed for them before. He played for JPP a couple years ago and played really well, defensive end.
Yes.
We basically signed Kareem Martin instead of him. And he was on it wasn't even like we needed to re-up him or anything. He was on the team. So we chose Kareem Martin, who's been a disappointment, over Aquara. And Kennard, his rookie year, he had 5 sacks, I think, 5.5 sacks. And then they kind of put him in space. I always thought he was a very small defensive end or outside linebacker for 3-4. So when Betcher came over, I figured, you know what, he may thrive in this kind of a defense, but they chose to move on. They didn't sign him, and now we are where we are. And like you said, Kennard and Aquara are playing well. I'm still okay with the JPP trade.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you there. So am I.
Yeah. But they should have kept Aquara. That was the one that made no sense getting rid of.
There are offensive linemen out there, by the way, that the Giants had no interest in the last 4 or 5 drafts that are doing very well.
Ryan Ramczyk,
Andres Pete with the Saints.
Oh, and by the way, those 2 were mocked in the Giant Insider by me in the first round.
Yeah, buddy. And then, of course, Brandon Scherf with the...
Brandon Scherf went before the Giants thought he was going to go, so they panicked and took Flowers. But then they should have taken Andres Pete instead.
Yeah.
That was an easy one. But I knew they would go Flowers because when you read the scouting report on him, it was the talent is there, but he needs to be coached up. And the Giants and Reese, everyone thought, we've got a hell of a coaching staff. We'll coach these guys up. And he couldn't coach them.
Yeah.
So he's actually starting today, Eric Flowers.
For the Jaguars?
Yeah, he's going to start today.
Really?
Start. Yeah.
But they lose somebody?
I just saw it on Twitter. I don't know.
Wow, that's interesting.
But yeah, Scherf was the guy, was the main guy they should have taken. He went to the Redskins, and then the Giants panicked and took Flowers. But I had mocked Andrews Pete to the Giants, who's now on New Orleans playing guard and playing very well.
Yeah, he is.
And Renchick is on the Saints. So what's that tell you?
Yeah.
Offensive line's really good there.
Yeah, it is.
How come everyone else knew this except Reese and Ross?
Yeah, interesting question.
Yeah.
We brought up the trade deadline briefly last week. We didn't really explore it as much as I wanted to. We ran out of time. But I wanted to ask you, was there any one player approaching the deadline that you thought was a goner that is still on the team?
Jenkins, not even close. I can't believe he's still on the team.
Wow.
And it's not that I dislike him. It's just that he's making a lot of money, and I don't know if he's going to be back next year. So I would have taken a 6th rounder for him, or a 5th rounder. I wouldn't have cared. So but maybe that's not what was offered. You had heard that the Chiefs and the Steelers were looking into Jenkins, and with the Chiefs looking also at Collins. But if they were offering a 5th or 6th, I would have taken it just to get another pick.
Yeah.
Because he may not be unless he's back next year, that's fine. But Collins made more sense not to deal. Jenkins didn't make much sense for me.
My understanding,
the future.
From my understanding, Pat Shurmur is a big fan of Jenkins, and that's probably why he's still there.
Yeah, that's fine. As long as he's back next year, then it makes sense. But if he doesn't come back, then it makes no sense.
Well, that's a good point, and maybe he'll restructure his contract. I'm hearing, Jerry Foley, I am hearing that tomorrow night, if the Giants are playing tomorrow night, that is, I'm hearing that this is the final hurrah for Eli Manning if he doesn't play well. Have you heard that?
Well, Shurmur just said he's not promising anything after this week. It'd be hard to see him go to Taney next week because Giant fans would say, what the hell are you going to Alex Taney for? Why do we care about this? He would want to go to Lauletta. But Lauletta hasn't really been elevated up the depth chart yet. It'd be very unusual to see someone like Lauletta go from 3rd team to 1st team in a week. But I think it's more maybe the decision would be made after tomorrow night that, okay, we're going to start sitting Eli and getting Lauletta in games more. But I don't know, man. It's going to be hard to move him that fast up the depth chart, in my opinion.
Jerry Foley from the Giant Insider and yours truly, the Frattman on GameFaceRadio. One of the big contributors to this show is John Fennelly, New York Giants journalist extraordinaire. Let's do the Fennelly Fracas, and then we'll come back and do in-your-face matchups on Game Face.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to the Fennelly Fracas on Game Face Radio.
Another nationally televised game for the New York Football Giants? You've got to be kidding me. Do you know that they're 3-9 on national television since the beginning of 2016? Yeah, they are. They're that bad. They're also 24-39-1 all-time on Monday nights and just 15-29-1 on the road. Not only that, they've dropped 3 of their last 4 Monday games. The world has to be sick of watching this team unravel on a big stage. I know Giant fans are. There was a guy who told me the other day he wished they'd bring back the blackout rule. The Giants' dirty laundry is going to be on display once again this week, as they'll have a trunk full of dysfunction for the national media to unpack. They could do themselves a huge favor by blowing this game and up their draft status, because that's the only thing these fans have to look forward to. Next year, the schedule makers have to spare us and the rest of the world the indignity and embarrassment by giving the Giants fewer national games. I'm John Fennelly, and this has been the Fennelly Fracas on Game Face Radio and CBS Sports Radio.
All right, thanks, John. Cranking out the Alice in Chains. We're going to be back to wrap it up here in mere moments. Hang on. Game Face Radio, CBS Sports Radio, 940 WINE. Sunday mornings, 9 o'clock Eastern for 1 hour. We're here talking the NFL. I am the Frattman. He is Jerry Foley from the Giant Insider. It is time for in-your-face matchups. All right, Jerry Foley. Actually, I think the matchups for this weekend are kind of lame. They're not that good. There's not a lot of good games here, man.
No, we went through the schedule, too. It's pretty bad.
Yeah. So I did pick three. A 1 o'clock kickoff, New England at Tennessee. That should be an interesting game, though.
You know what, man? I'm going upset. I'm going Tennessee. I'm going with Vrabel knowing Belichick. And home game, I know it sounds crazy. I'm not throwing dirt on the Patriots, but I also think they might lose this week. I'm going to go with Tennessee.
I'm going with you on that one as well, buddy.
Nice.
Definitely. Let's see here. We have the Miami Dolphins visiting the Green Bay Packers, a 4:25 kickoff in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Packers by 60 or so, give or take. I mean, the only team that could have lost to the Dolphins last week was the Jets. And,
that's right.
I mean, they're just so bad.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, rather, whatever that game was.
I think that was last Sunday.
Yeah, it seems like it was so long ago. I think that game is being looped in hell for people.
Yeah, and the other item here is that the Packers, after coming off of that loss to the Patriots, I would be surprised if you're right. They didn't go out there and just pace the Dolphins.
Oh, I think they're going to murder them.
And then we have another game at 4:25. The Seattle Seahawks at the L.A. Rams.
This will be closer than people think. But I like the Rams based on the fact that they lost last week and they're at home. Game was in Seattle. It's a little different, but they're going to be a little sore that they lost to the Saints. I think the Rams are the best team in the NFC. I think it's going to be a Rams-Chiefs Super Bowl. I think the Rams will take them today.
So those are your in-your-face matchups. I do want to talk about a fourth matchup here because of some rumors that are associated with it. But the Buffalo Bills at the New York Jets, a 1 o'clock kickoff. There are rumors swirling that if the Jets lose that game, it's bye-bye Todd Bowles. Have you heard anything along those lines?
I have, but I've heard the same rumors that you have. It wouldn't surprise me. You can't draft Sam Darnold and then have a defensive coach as his head coach, right? You just need an offensive guy, and the same thing happened in Cleveland already. Not that Hugh Jackson was a defensive guy, but these early round quarterbacks need a Josh McDaniels type or an offensive guru to kind of get them going. So it wouldn't stun me. And I don't think Sam Darnold's that hurt today, I'll be honest with you. I think they want to sit him down.
The Giants are 31st in the NFL in red zone scoring. Guess who number 32 is?
Jets.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and that's been a staple of Giants football for about 10 years now.
Yeah, and that is the issue, going back to our earlier discussion. That's one of the big issues with Pat Shurmur here is he gets inside the 20-yard line, man, and all of a sudden I'm seeing this play calling, and I'm like, what on earth is this guy thinking?
Well, the only time it was successful was when the Giants had Burris, right, because they would just throw a lot of fade passes or maybe Jeremy Shockey. But even after that, the Giants were never a good red zone team, and just because Coughlin used to call it the green zone didn't make them score anymore. So it seems like they've always had this problem inside the red zone. And you'd think with Barkley they'd be able to do something. Barkley, Beckham, Shepard.
Yeah. Ingram, I mean, come on. How much more do you need in order to be able to score some points down there? You got to get better with your play calling.
100%.
Yes. Jerry Foley from the Giant Insider, our co-host on GameFaceRadio. I am the Frattman. Thanks, bud. We'll talk to you next Sunday, of course.
And we'll have another game to discuss. Thanks, man.
All right, buddy. Talk to you soon. This is GameFaceRadio. Big time thanks to you for joining us here Sunday mornings, 9 o'clock Eastern. We do have a Facebook page, facebook.com/GameFaceRadio. Would be cool if you went there and liked us. Go Giants. We'll see you next Sunday, 9 o'clock Eastern.
We are your home for CBS Sports Radio. CBS Sports Radio, 940 WINE, Brookfield, Danbury, a Town Square media station. This is Sports Radio 940 WINE.
On Hardware, Franklin Pierce University, Northern Bank, Life Care Centers of America, ACP Facility Services, Valvoline Instant Oil Change, AdCare Hospital, Insurance Services of New England, and by Apex Entertainment Center.
We're bringing this sucker home!
Now, here's Mark Bertrand and Chris Gasper.
Welcome into Patriots Preview, live from Splitsville, Patriot Place in Foxborough. I'm Mark Bertrand alongside Chris Gasper, and it's a day of firsts for the Patriots. It's the first time that Bill Belichick will have a head coach on the other sideline, and it's a former player. It's the first time where the head coach on the other sideline is a former teammate of Tom Brady, and it's the first time the Patriots will face Malcolm Butler when he's on the other team. There's quite a bit to get to here today as the Patriots get set for their 1 o'clock kick against the Titans at Nissan Stadium in Nashville. Chris, let's talk about this game because I have tried for days now to come up with a way that the Titans, really of their own doing, would have a way to win this game.